She never told you this on purpose. But the most magnetic woman in the room is not the loudest, the prettiest, or the one trying the hardest. She's the one who understands timing, rhythm, and restraint. And I know that sentence just landed somewhere deep in your body because the truth is, I didn't become magnetic by doing more. I became magnetic by sinking, by listening, by finally using the thing we were taught to ignore, suppress, or medicate away. My cycle. And the moment I stopped fighting it and started leading with it, everything shifted. My energy, my relationships, my boundaries, the way men responded to me, the way women watched me, and the way I walked into a room knowing I didn't need to announce myself because my presence already had. And if that makes you lean a little closer to the screen, good, because this isn't about periods or hormones in the way you've been taught. This is about power. This is about strategy. This is about understanding that your body has 4 distinct energetic identities every single month, and most women are trying to live like men on a 24-hour cycle while wondering why they feel burned out, overlooked, and emotionally reactive. And I used to be that woman, the one pushing through exhaustion, saying yes when my intuition whispered no, forcing consistency when my body was asking for creativity or rest, and wondering why attraction felt unpredictable, why my confidence fluctuated, why some weeks I felt unstoppable and other weeks I felt invisible, until I realized invisibility wasn't a flaw. It was a phase. And magnetism is not constant. It's cyclical. And once I stopped trying to be the same woman every day and started becoming the right woman at the right time, my life became quieter, richer, and far more effective. Because here's what no one tells you. Men respond more deeply to women who are embodied, not women who are available all the time. And embodiment comes from alignment. And alignment comes from respecting your internal seasons. I remember the first time I consciously leaned into this. I walked into a dinner knowing I was in my ovulatory phase. My voice naturally softer, my eye contact slower, my body warmer. And I didn't perform. I didn't chase conversation. I simply allowed myself to be seen. And the room responded without me lifting a finger. Not because I was trying to attract, but because attraction is a byproduct of being in your body. And that night confirmed something ancient philosophers and modern psychologists agree on. Energy precedes action. And when your energy is coherent, people feel safe orbiting you. And if you're already feeling that spark of recognition, do yourself a favor and subscribe. Turn on notifications. Because this is the kind of information you don't hear once. You integrate it. And integration changes everything. And as I kept studying my cycle, not from a clinical place but from a lived one, I noticed patterns. During my follicular phase, my ideas flowed faster. My ambition sharpened. My desire to initiate increased. So that's when I planned, pitched, reached out, and started things. During ovulation, my magnetism peaked. Not just physically but socially. So that's when I scheduled dates, meetings, conversations that required warmth and influence. During my luteal phase, my discernment heightened. My tolerance for nonsense dropped. So that's when I edited my life, cleaned my calendar, had necessary but uncomfortable conversations. And during my bleed, I rested, reflected, withdrew just enough to recharge my intuition. And here's the psychological twist. When you allow yourself to pull back without guilt, people lean in. Because scarcity that comes from self-respect feels different than scarcity that comes from fear. And I stopped explaining my energy. I stopped apologizing for it. And something powerful happened. My standards became felt instead of stated. And that is the kind of dominance that doesn't need a voice. It just needs consistency. And if you've ever wondered why sometimes you feel like a queen and other times like you're questioning everything, it's not because you're unstable. It's because you're cyclical. And there is nothing more dangerous than a woman who understands her rhythm and stops letting the world rush her out of it. There was a moment, very specific, very quiet, where I realized this wasn't just about productivity or self-care. This was about relationships, about power dynamics, about who leads emotionally. Because when a woman doesn't understand her cycle, she overgives in her low energy phases and undersieves in her high energy ones. But when she does understand it, she times her availability, her vulnerability, her visibility, and timing is everything. I stopped having deep emotional conversations when my body was asking for rest. I stopped making big decisions when my intuition was cloudy. And I stopped chasing reassurance when my hormones were already lowering my emotional resilience. And instead, I worked with myself, and the men in my life noticed before I ever explained it. They felt the difference, the way I no longer rushed replies, the way I didn't overextend on days I needed space, the way my affection felt intentional instead of habitual. And intention is intoxicating. And this aligns perfectly with a principle Carl Jung hinted at when he said that what you resist persists. But what you integrate transforms. I integrated my cycle into my identity. And suddenly, I wasn't asking for better treatment. I was setting a rhythm that others adapted to. And here's a relationship hack most people miss. Consistency doesn't mean sameness. It means reliability. And when people can rely on your boundaries, your energy, your standards, they respect you more, not less. And as I moved through each month with awareness, I noticed something else. My self-trust deepened. I stopped outsourcing decisions to friends, to partners, to the internet, because my body was giving me feedback constantly. And a woman who trusts herself doesn't seek permission. She seeks alignment. And that shows up in how she dresses, how she speaks, how she pauses before answering. And those pauses, those micro moments of restraint, are where magnetism lives. Because restraint signals abundance, and abundance signals value. And if this is resonating, I want you to comment your biggest takeaway so far. Not for me, but for you. Because naming awareness locks it into your nervous system. And the more I lived this way, the more I realized how deeply we've been conditioned to ignore our cycles in order to be palatable, productive, and predictable. But predictability is boring. Rhythm is captivating. And when you honor your rhythm, you stop chasing validation during your low points and stop wasting your high points on people who haven't earned access to you. And that alone will elevate your entire dating life, your career, and your self-image. Because you're no longer operating from depletion. You're operating from design. And design always outperforms force. And I know some part of you is thinking, this sounds beautiful, but can I really live this way? And the answer is yes. Because this isn't about doing less. It's about doing what matches your internal weather. And when your actions match your internal state, you feel congruent. And congruence is confidence. And confidence, real confidence, not loud confidence, not performative confidence, is what turns heads without trying. By the time I fully committed to living this way, not just knowing it intellectually, but honoring it behaviorally, I became calmer, sharper, and far less available to chaos. And that's when I noticed how often chaos had been mistaken for passion in my past, how often inconsistency had been dressed up as excitement, and how often I had abandoned my body's wisdom to maintain connection. But a woman who uses her cycle doesn't abandon herself. She anchors into herself. And that anchoring creates a gravitational pull. Because people are drawn to what feels stable, intentional, and alive. And the irony is, the more I rested when my body asked, the more energy I had when it mattered, the more selective I became, the more desired I felt. And the more I trusted my timing, the less I needed reassurance. Because reassurance is a symptom of disconnection from self. And connection to self is the ultimate security. And this is where becoming magnetic stops being about attraction and starts being about leadership. Emotional leadership, energetic leadership, self-leadership. Because when you lead yourself well, others follow naturally. And I want you to hear this clearly. You don't need to be available all month to be desirable. You need to be aligned. You don't need to be endlessly accommodating to be loved. You need to be embodied. And embodiment is not loud. It's felt. It's the woman who knows when to lean in and when to lean back, when to speak and when to let silence do the work. And silence, when it's chosen, is powerful. And as I close this, I want you to imagine a version of yourself 1 month from now, moving through her days with awareness, planning her life around her energy instead of forcing herself into systems that drain her, noticing how her presence shifts rooms, how conversations slow down when she speaks, how she no longer needs to compete for attention because she commands it through calm certainty. And if that version of you feels real, not fantasy, that's because she already exists. She's just waiting for you to stop overriding her signals. And if you felt this in your body, not just your mind, comment "I needed this," because the woman who admits what resonates is already in her power. And if you're ready to keep becoming her, subscribe, turn on notifications, and stay close, because Femphoria is where we don't just talk about power. We embody it. And once you learn to move with your cycle, not against it, you won't just be magnetic. You'll be unforgettable.